Hello everyone, I'm Joe Cronin and welcome to the Toss-Up. Riley got things going last week talking about some IU women's soccer, and if you'd like to guess, then ding ding ding, we're talking about some men's soccer this week. Let's stick around, roll that intro because it's all next on the Toss-Up. Well, maybe a bit surprising that Indiana football is stealing the show here in Bloomington in the fall. And no, that's not to discredit the strong start the Hoosiers find themselves out to. They're 4-0 in the SIG era. But this is typically the point in the year where Indiana soccer has all the spotlight in the early fall. This is arguably the most dominant program in the country. The men's soccer program has 8 national championships to their name, plenty of alumnus making splashes in the pros, and a family legacy that's really second to none within the sport. All that glitters is not gold, as the 2024 season for Indiana soccer has been a little shaky to say the least. They have a 2-3-3 record. They're coming off a loss to Maryland, and that raises a lot of questions. And joining me here to answer some of those questions, Sam Brunsman, Kara Adams, and Josh Pos, all covering the men's soccer team this year, all in their second or even third year if you're a dinosaur like Kara Adams. Who's sorry, no disrespect, I know you're turning 22. How's that feeling? You know, birthday on the rise.
Oh, I'm very excited for my birthday.
Happy
Thanks,
early
Joe.
birthday. I mean, once this actually airs, you will have been 22 at that point. But we'll get right into it. Skip the birthday talk into the soccer talk. This team's 2-3-3. Sam, what have you noticed so far?
Yeah, their finishing hasn't been what it has been in past seasons. I mean, you bring in Justin Weiss. He hasn't really brought that energy to that attack. And they've had chances, they just haven't converted them into goals, and that's really hurt them so far this season.
I think with that finishing, like with Justin, he did get dinged up in that Notre Dame match. I'm not entirely sure if he's been 100% up to that point. Carol, thoughts on the start of the year?
Yeah, they're kind of missing that almost like final key piece in the final third, not really being able to finish that much. But the 2-3-3 record doesn't really surprise me that much, because when you look at last season, they were 3-3-3. They were coming off of a tie at home to Michigan September 26th last season, and they were 3-3-3. And if they can get a win at Ohio State this Friday, they're going to be at the same record as they were last season.
We'll
we saw what they did last season.
We'll definitely talk about that Ohio State match here coming up. That's a pretty big-time one, especially with the way that this season's been going for so far. But Josh, with that 2-3-3 record, what have you noticed?
I've just noticed a lot of miscues. Not only on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. The back line, much younger. You don't have Joey Mayer, you have Josh Mayer, but Joey Mayer is one of the best center backs in the country, and his presence is missed completely right now. So I'm not surprised about this start, but you got to turn around at some point, because you have some not bad losses, you have some bad draws.
That is true. We'll allude to some of those draws here. Josh, I want to point out the shoe game. They're absolutely fire if we get the cameras going. We're both wearing the same shoes. Ironic, isn't it? But Sam, want to go back to that Maryland match, a 1-0 loss. It was weird because if you play 70 or more minutes in a match and then there's a delay or storm delay, then that is the final score. The match had gone for 69 minutes and 40 seconds. Then the storm happened. So they had to repeat or continue that last 20 minutes and 20 seconds on Saturday morning. Weird match. They lost 1-0 on a penalty. Just what'd you notice in that one?
It's a frustrating loss. I mean, they played actually pretty well. They had the chances there, just couldn't convert, as I said earlier. And the penalty that they give up, it was kind of soft, I'm not going to lie. There wasn't much there. And then obviously Maryland hasn't missed from the spot this year. They bury it. But in that last 20 minutes on Saturday in the morning, they had a lot of corners. They just couldn't convert, and it's frustrating going into another Big Ten matchup against Ohio State. So they really got to turn things around and do it quickly.
Yeah, at this point in the year, only 2 wins. Kara, what have you noticed in some of these draws and losses, some of the tendencies of the team?
Well, kind of going off of what Sam said, they kind of will dominate majority of the game, I would say, but then they'll kind of have that 30-second to a minute letdown, where in the Evansville game, for example, they were up 1-0. Then kind of a little breakdown. Evansville scores a great goal to tie it. Then they end up tying it. Then in that Butler game, Tommy missed his PK to kind of have that insurance goal. Butler ends up tying it a bit late in the second half, and then they end up with another draw.
It's something that Coach Yeagley has talked to us a few times about, that in these draws and these close losses, it's a few moments where the ball doesn't bounce our way is what he says, and that kind of changes the trajectory of the game. I mean, Josh, have you noticed that from what Yeagley says? Does that kind of come to fruition in these draws and losses?
Yeah, there's a lot of bad luck, bad bounces, but there's a lot of user error too. I mean, you can't just go right down the flank and expect to just score right down that sideline and pass across. We all play FIFA at some point in our lives, and we all did that, but it doesn't really work in real life as it does in video games. So it's just a really tough thing to say, yeah, you have these bad breaks, but you're also having a lot of self-deprecating errors.
Josh, I'll come back to you with this one. We've talked a bit about like the inability to finish in that attacking third, but where do you think some of these early season, I guess we're nearing that midpoint of the season, the struggles, where do you think those are rooted from?
Being too unselfish. I think there's a lot of times where a guy like Sam Sarver will take that extra touch. It ends up being heavy. He loses possession. You have Colin Zaduro that has been struggling as of late. It's because he's not taking that second touch. He's passing the ball when he probably should shoot the ball. The only one I've seen that has shot the ball with some confidence is Patrick McDonald. He had that left-footed strike just outside the box from Butler. Sam and I had a beautiful angle on it. He's got to do more of that. Put more pressure on the goalkeeper. Try to go upstairs on him, because a lot of the shots Indiana has is either gotten deflected to the keeper, deflected wide, and cleared away. That leads to a counterattack. You got to get shots on target and force rebounds and be there for those rebounds.
It seems like he has a few in his arsenal to just rip one from, a few yards outside the 18, and I think that's a situation where they need someone like that to start just ripping some shots. Kara, where do you think some of these struggles are rooted from?
I agree with Josh on some of those things, kind of just taking shots when they have them. Like we saw Michael Nessie do that too in Notre Dame to get that banger of a goal to tie the game. I mean, they have the power and they have the ability to do that, and I think kind of just those final key pieces in the final third where they're either just maybe missing a communication off of a ball, or just a through ball doesn't get through, the run's a little off, maybe that sort of thing. It's just those tiny little pieces that once those all come together, I think things will really start working for them.
The three results that really stick out to me is when they drew Evansville and they outshot them 20-6. They drew Butler, and that was the missed Tommy PK. And then, of course, the Maryland match that they lost, that was another penalty kick. Sam, I mean, with results like that, I mean, obviously you can look at, hey, the ball didn't bounce our way these times, but is there anything kind of looming that needs kind of fixed up from those ones?
They just need to bury their chances, like put the game away, basically. And as you mentioned, they've had lapses where they let that equalizer in. It's tough. It is kind of like what Todd said. It's just how the game is. You have a lapse here and there, but you just got to put the game away when you have it there. You had those chances. You got to put the game away, make it 2-0, get it done.
Now, I know it's hard to kind of draw a lot of positives from this team so far, even though they do have 2 wins under their belt. They've played against some solid opponents so far. But with a guy like Todd Yeagley, who has so much experience, a deep, rich history of this program, can you push the panic button on this season quite yet? Or do you still have a couple matches to spare before you're like, oh my, we need to run the table?
I wouldn't hit the panic button yet. As Kara said, they were 3-3-3 last year at this time. And now this is really the stretch where they need to pull out some wins against really quality teams. You got Ohio State, Wisconsin, Washington, Kentucky, Penn State. These are really good programs. And depending on how they do in these next 5, we'll see. And if they need to win at least 3. And one split Ohio State, Wisconsin. Pull out some wins at home because they have a 3-game home stretch there. But I would wait. I would wait until this next 5 games come through.
Do you think there's a possibility that panic button is hit? And if so, when do you think it is, Kara?
No, definitely not. I don't think so. Just covering the team for the past couple of years, this is kind of how they've always started. And even going back to last season again, they didn't win a Big Ten game until October, until they won at Penn State. And they already have one Big Ten win under the belt, so that's already an improvement from last season. But this team, especially some of these key older guys like Patrick, Tommy, Sam, they've all kind of had a tougher start into August and September, but they always find a way. And Todd's been around long enough. The man knows what he's doing.
Yeah, can you ever really count out Todd Yeagley, Josh?
You can't count out Todd Yeagley in this Indiana program, but I'm just going to try to be different. You see that, Joe?
Yes.
Slapping the panic button right there.
Oh, there we go.
I
Imagine
think,
there's a
Hot
button.
take.
yeah, there's a button right there.
Someone edit there and put a button right there.
Yeah.
We talked about getting the Staples button, but it just didn't work out.
course.
It wasn't in the budget. But I just don't think that last year's start is as comparative as we're saying. I mean, this Big Ten is so much better this year than last year. I mean, Indiana was the only team to make it, if I'm not mistaken, in the Big Ten, and that's because they won the Big Ten tournament. I don't know if they'd have been in had they not beaten Penn State. It'd have been a really close call. So they have ranked teams. They have Ohio State and Wisconsin, 2 top 10 teams on their schedule next. They're opportunities, but you can't let these slip away from you, because if you let these slip away into losses, then the season might be a lost cause.
Obviously, we could be looking back at this come November and realize, oh, they're making another run into the Sweet 16, Elite Eight. Who knows? We may be eating our words. I'm not entirely sure. We've talked a bit about what hasn't been working. Josh, we're coming back to you with this. There has been positives. They have 2 wins. They've scored some goals. A lot of young guys are getting reps. What have you liked so far, or things that you've noticed that there is the potential to get those wins here in the coming month?
Well, first of all, speaking of dinosaurs, sorry, Kara, JT Harm's really good late in his career. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go after you. Taylor Swift, you're coming up.
Twice
Thanks,
now.
Josh.
But I think that the formation change in the offense, I mean, they've been pushing forward, and it's hurt them a couple times, as it did last year with the counterattacks. But if they can remain forward, a lot of teams play Indiana to try to go to a 0-0 draw or a 1-1 draw. They don't go to play Indiana to win. Maybe this year could be different, with teams maybe being a little bit higher level at this point of the season, like Ohio State and Wisconsin. But Indiana's push press has been really good. It's just about finishing and being less hopeful on your passes, making educated wishes or something like that.
Educated wish. I like that one. A little Deadpool reference for everyone out there. But yeah, the formation change, like you mentioned. The Dayton match, they went out with that 4-4-2, got blanked in a 2-0 loss. And they come out again at Piscataway, first Big Ten match, with a 4-3-3, a little more offensive heavy. Seems like it's working a little better. They haven't scored a ton, but it seems like they're more cohesive, Carrie, you think?
Yeah, I think they've seen results with the 4-4-2 and the 4-3-3, but the 4-3-3 helps, I think, having Tommy and Sammy both on the wings. You have a lot of speed, and then if Michael Nessie, who's been starting kind of in between Patrick and Jack Wagner, that helps a lot too. But this team has depth, I think. You could argue. Luke Jeffers has been great off the bench. Seth Stewart. Collins hasn't, since coming off of that injury. He's been coming back off the bench. He's been a good spark. For me, I'm kind of waiting for Justin Weiss to get over the hump and get that first goal of the season. He's been close. It's got to be coming. And I'm waiting for Clay Mirador to have his breakout game, because
so close.
we know he is so fast.
Close.
And I know he can get a goal.
He has the burners. I mean, he just tears down the wing, beats really any guy that's in front of him. Sam, I'm going to ask you about these young guys. I mean, Michael Nessie's starting. Brecken Minzy, a sophomore, but he has been in the starting rotation now at that right back in place of Alex Barger. A couple young guys like Easton Bogart are making appearances for the first time in the year a couple of matches ago. Just what have you liked from the youth of this squad?
Yeah, they have, as you mentioned, they have that depth. It's so young, but they're so skilled as well. They're so quick. They have speed to get by defenders, and they can create chances as well. And we've already mentioned Michael Nessie scoring that rocket of a goal. So, I mean, they have the players to do it. And I like Brecken Minzy. I think, shout out to Austin Platt for this. I like the idea of moving Minzy into the midfield.
Okay.
Let him create. He's been up in the attack. Same with Quentin Elliott. Todd likes to get his backs up on the wings, get them involved in the attack. And I think that if you put Minzy in the middle, kind of like a Hugo Bacharach last year, throwing him in the midfield, look what that did. Really propelled them on that run. So I don't hate moving Minzy up there. Let him create in the middle with Patty.
That was a bit of the transition I was going towards. Josh, you had something?
Notorious soccer coach Austin Platt, by the way.
Notorious, yeah.
I mean, we won a couple games in intramural last year.
He is the manager of the
I think it was us four that scored all the goals.
Yeah,
though.
probably.
I think this was the entire goal-scoring conglomerate right here. But that's okay. We still had a couple wins. That is, of course, intramural soccer, not collegiate Division I soccer. But continuing, I like what you mentioned with Hugo. Last year, they had a 6'4" guy who could win every 50-50 ball. They don't really have that this year. Is there kind of a switch that can be made, whether it is Brecken, that can kind of spark a little bit of a run heading forward, Josh? It's okay if you say no.
I want to go yes. I think that a Brecken Minzy will push Indiana further. A lot of teams don't have this depth. Like you said, Kara, I think with Indiana's depth, history, and just all-out smart play, they will win a few games. They'll get over that edge, and when they get into that Big Ten tournament, there's a good chance that they'll be playing in UCLA, and we'll have to make a second trip out to Pasadena, Joe.
That would be wild. Yes, UCLA, one of the additions to the Big Ten along with Washington, because USC and Oregon do not have men's soccer programs. UCLA was off to a very hot start to the year. They'll be out in Pasadena, I believe it's mid-October when they're at UCLA, something like that. But last question before we go into really the long term is with this upcoming Ohio State match. This is a big one. I mean, Ohio State's right now number 4 in the U.S. Soccer Coaches Poll, number 7 in the top 25 for NCAA. This is a good squad and the best offensive team that IU has seen all year. Dayton was the best before that, and they lost 2-0. Kara, just thoughts going into this match. It's a big one at Columbus.
This is a huge opportunity for IU to kind of just I don't want to say retake their season, but just kind of build some great momentum just to go into Big Ten play. And the back line and JT Harms has got to be ready to go. Ohio State is scoring like no other, averaging around 19 shots per game. They won out at Penn State 5-0. That's most Big Ten games are a little closer than that one, and they were just on top of them that entire game. So Ohio State, it's going to be a very tough matchup, but it's a huge opportunity to really get a big win or a draw. I don't think you can leave Columbus with a loss.
Sam?
I think this game's really going to show who this team is. And they need to come out firing. I know Todd's going to have his guys ready, but they need to come out there, play fast, play physical, and get a result that they need.
So we saw last year when they began to win their games, make another deep postseason run, win the Big Ten double, the dominoes were falling. What does it take to get those dominoes to fall again, Josh?
The veterans to play out. Going to go for the third time. Sorry, Kara. Dinosaurs are going to have to come out and show out every single night. I'm not familiar. I'm not a paleontologist by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay. I forgive you.
But I think it's all about those veterans that need to. You got JT Harms, Sam Sarver, Patrick McDonald, Tommy Mahalik. Justin Weiss really needs to show up in a big way. He's got to get healthy. This week off or 6 days off after 20 minutes on Saturday. You have to use that to your advantage. Get fresh, refresh, hit the refresh button, and start your play now.
They have winners on this team, guys who have seen it before, and it's just a matter of almost when it will happen. Kara?
I agree with Josh. They kind of need those key leaders and veterans to really step up because those guys have been in all of these situations before. They know what it takes to kind of get over that hump and just finish games out. So they need people like JT, like Patrick, like Jansen too in the back to really kind of take over this team and just kind of get them into the right direction.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, they nailed it. And going back to the Rutgers game real quick, that was the first time that this senior class has beaten Rutgers in Piscataway. So, which is it's a pretty crazy thing.
Right.
But they have the pieces to really build this momentum and train to keep this season going into Big Ten play.
Now, because of the way they've started the Big Ten play and the way that the new Big Ten is, there will be 2 or 3 teams, I believe, that don't make the Big Ten tournament out of the 10 total. I don't think that's entirely on the cards for the Hoosiers this season, but Sam, I'll ask you, how does this Hoosier season end up? And we could be eating our words come November.
I think they'll find a way to make a decent run in the Big Ten tournament.
What
championship.
About anything with NCAA?
We'll see.
I
haven't thought about it that far. I need to see how this next stretch goes of games.
It's okay. You don't have to get that bold. Kara?
I can get that bold.
All right.
I think they're going to figure it out and things will start clicking. I don't know if they win the Big Ten tournament, but I think they have some solid wins under their belt in regular conference play. And as for the NCAA tournament, these guys don't want to be the team that's remembered for ruining that active NCAA tournament appearance streak. This will be the 38th NCAA tournament appearance if they make it. And it's kind of like those guys don't want to be remembered for that. And I also think when you look at these older guys, Patrick, Tommy, Sammy, Jansen, JT, they have been so close in so many moments. Like Elite 8, lost in PKs, National Championship, lost in PKs. Even Patrick, Tommy, and Sam's freshman year, they lost on a golden goal in overtime in the Sweet 16 to Washington. They've just been so close to those final moments. I think they're going to turn it around and give it all they have.
They know what it takes when the odds are stacked against them and when it matters the most, it seems like. So it'll be interesting to see if things can start to play out. Josh,
Joe, you
final
see
expectations.
You see that?
Yeah.
Don't panic button.
Don't panic. Oh, are you like
flipped my
undoing
script.
it?
Flip the script.
Okay, why not?
All right.
I flipped it. Once again, not in the budget for the don't panic
It's okay.
button.
It's okay. Left
But
is.
yeah, the left is
yep,
the panic, the right is.
I've remembered.
I really think that this team, I'm not going to say book your flights or cars or Airbnbs to carry, but
Wow.
no.
Okay.
I'm
I guess you did say that.
I didn't say I was going to say it.
That's
But
something I would
Implied.
say.
yeah, I'm sorry. I took over for Dinosaur over here.
4 now.
Yeah, 4. And I just think that this team has potential to get over the edge if they figure it out. I know Sam is hesitant. Kara and I on the IUSTV beat are really bold.
Oh, yeah.
That's just how we work. Don't look at each other like that. I just think that we at the IUSTV beat have faith in what Todd Yeagley has done and can do with a veteran team like this.
I'm flabbergasted that you've been able to call Kara a dinosaur 4 times.
4 times.
Kara, I'm so sorry. You're not
I'm
even
not
the
even
oldest.
22 yet.
You're not even the oldest of
Yeah,
them.
I'm
Sam's even more of
I'm the
a
grandpa
of a
of this group.
triceratops or
Yeah.
a different type of dinosaur like that. But I, as the host here, I can't exactly make predictions. That's not in the cards for me. But I do see them making the NCAA tournament again. I'm not sure how far. I mean, the competition gets tougher and tougher each year, and I think that's just the testament of where the sport has grown. Is that it's no longer the 70s where they can walk in and win their national championships. And yes, they won in 2012, but it's not like that anymore with the way that the sport has gone, and especially with the portal and stuff. But it'll be fun to watch this team again in October. That's when we know they kind of ramp it up. That's when they lit the fire under them last season. So we'll see if they can do it again. But that's going to do it for another episode of The Toss-Up. The Hoosiers are out in Columbus to battle it out against the top 10 Buckeyes on Friday as they look to get back in the win column. As always, follow along with our Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports to stay up to date with what's going on in the IU sporting world. With that, one thing left to do. Instead of tossing a kick, Sam caught it. We'll see you next time.
That was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was